chef, author, and former Seattle resident who's bringing the flavors of Somali home cooking to the spotlight. Ifrah Ahmed is the author of this beautiful new cookbook, Soomaaliya, featuring 75 traditional recipes alongside stories of culture, community, and family. And she's here now to cook one of the dishes with us. Ifrah, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, what are we making today? I already see a pan heating up.
Yeah, it's already heating up. So today we're going to be making malawah, which is basically like a cardamom crepe. So originally when malawah sort of started, it was only done with flour and water. So it sort of evolved. Now it has some eggs, some milk, some cardamom for the aromatics. So it's a very
cardamom.
Thin, beautiful, like tasting crepe, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how do we get started?
So
I see a blender.
Yeah, everything's in here already. So we have our ingredients. So we're just gonna do a quick blend. It's very easy to make, and it's a great sort of like weekend activity also.
Yes, absolutely. And what consistency are we looking for there with a crepe?
So initially when you put it in, it might be a little thicker. So once you pour it into the bowl, as we'll do in just a second, just thin it out with water. So you want it to be sort of like a thinner, sort of like, crepe quality.
Definitely. Okay. And tell me about growing up too, and how important this, cuisine was to you and your family.
Yeah, Somali cooking and just like Somali cuisine in general was so important to my family. My mom really used it as a way for us to maintain our connection to our Somali identity. And with a lot of immigrant groups, language is super important, but sometimes we forget that the food itself is also an incredibly important part of cultural identity. So she began teaching me how to cook when I was a very young age, and really started teaching me all the traditional sort of like Somali recipes. And that really helped me, with this book, and just really maintain my connection to my cultural heritage.
I bet. So how early on was she teaching you how to cook?
I was fairly young. I was
really?
about 7 years old.
Wow.
And that's really the traditional way that we're a culture in which like a lot of our recipes are not written down. It's an oral tradition. And so I was really in the kitchen from a young age, kind of at her elbow, learning how to make every sort of dish. And yeah.
So cute. And now you're showing me, which I'm so honored to see.
I am. Do you smell the cardamom?
I do. Cardamom's one of my favorites.
It's actually one of my favorite spices as well. And it's really such an important part of Somali cuisine. It's in our sweet dishes like malawah. It's in our savory dishes like rice and meat and things like that. So yeah, it's an incredible spice.
I saw you putting a little more water in too, so you're really locked in on the consistency.
The consistency. So this is about what you would want.
Yeah.
And then we're just gonna wait for this to heat up a little bit. So
Definitely.
You can do like a cast iron, or you could do a nonstick skillet.
You put ghee, is that what you use?
So we call it's called cookbook. So our clarified butter, and we just have a little bit of it melted, and then you spread it out on the pan so it doesn't stick, obviously.
Okay, well, the one that's heating up too, tell me about this beautiful cookbook too, because it's not just about the food and the recipes too. I understand it's about the people.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, for me, this cookbook was a way to make sure that our culinary traditions were able to be passed on to the next generation. I think because we are an oral tradition, sometimes it's difficult for children to maybe have access to their parents' time or opportunities to learn. And so this was my way of actually writing down the recipes and having the steps available for people to use, whether they're my generation, my parents' generation, or my daughter's generation. And yeah, the book has the traditional recipes, but it also has a really in-depth history of Somalia spanning thousands of years, and then interviews with Somali people in food and agriculture globally.
Beautiful.
Thank
It's
you.
really stunning work there too. And so, okay, this is looking hot.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's
Okay.
getting there. We're gonna crank it
Crank
up.
it.
I would say crank it initially, but don't do it throughout the entire bit because you don't want to burn your
How
malawah.
long about does like something cook for like that, like a
It's
crepe?
pretty quick. Like once
is.
it starts going, the first one is always kind of wonky. The first pancake.
Yes.
It's sort of like just in a a practice attempt, really.
Definitely.
So we'll excuse whatever our first one looks like
Well,
right now.
I know. That's why. Just blame it on me. Just go ahead and pour on. And what was this dish too that you also brought? This is fantastic.
So this is baris, which is just our traditional sort of like spiced rice pilaf. It's very aromatic.
It
and
smells
then
amazing.
This is basbas, which is a hot sauce. We have so many different hot sauces, but that is really sort of like our most well-known one. And then this is a hilib suqar, which is just a beef and vegetable saute. So it has some carrots, it has some potatoes, and then we really tie all of our savory dishes together with bananas, which is such an important part of the Somali diet. And it's kind of a sweet and spicy and savory, combination.
Definitely.
You get kind of like a perfect bite in everything. And this is our hawash spice mix, and that's really the backbone of Somali cuisine. So it's a 7-spice mix that includes, like black pepper, cardamom. You love cardamom.
I love it. A cardamom latte.
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
we have a couple minutes. So I want to get one going.
Yeah. Let's get one going.
And I'm going to see your technique.
Do you see the
Yes,
cardamom?
yes.
Like it's really...
Oh, okay. A little sizzle too.
Yeah.
And how thin, so it's pretty thin that we're wanting the crepe style to be.
Yeah. So we're going to kind of do that, let it do its thing. And you know what I love about malawah is that the shapes can really vary.
Yeah.
You don't
have
always
to be
have that perfect kind of circular shape, but it starts cooking through relatively quickly.
I see
And then you can really see the flakes of like cardamom, just throughout the malawah, which I always appreciate. So once the crepe is sort of drying out, you do a little bit of the subak just around, because we're going to be flipping this. And then what I like to do is just spread the subak all over so that it's evenly coated.
Distributed, yeah. Ooh, okay, and I already see, that's way faster than like a pancake or anything like that.
And you don't want to go too thin because you do risk your malawah, tearing, and you don't want to do that. And then basically you start seeing that the malawah is lifting a little bit because it's sort of like puffing up from the heat, right?
Yeah.
So we'll give that just a few more seconds and really sort of let the sides get golden. And then I'm going to grab a spatula.
I know I was going to say, how do you flip this? But there it is.
Yeah, you do a spatula. If we were making anjera, which is our other main sort of like sourdough pancake, that one you could use a spatula, but sometimes people even just can lift with their hands.
Easy
and
peasy.
really be
While
able to
you're
stand the
flipping
heat.
it too, I'm going to try a little piece of this. And then I also would love to know the story of these two here.
Absolutely. So this is basically a traditional headrest, and it was often used by nomads or geljiras, camel herders. And essentially, it's a way for you to rest your head if you're not at home. It's essentially like a pillow, basically.
Yeah.
And it's really cool because it's portable. You can take it kind of everywhere. It's small, and then it keeps your hair intact, which is incredible. And then this is for usually you'd be milking into this.
Yeah.
And then so you could use this to catch milk, and then also use it as like a teacup or whatever you'd like. And then my favorite actually artifact is this one. It's called a kor. And basically it's a camel, it's a bell that you put around the neck of a camel. And so camels are a really important part of Somali, heritage, basically. So a lot of songs and poetry and everything are dedicated to camels. So you can hear the camel moving, and every bell kind of has a different sound.
Thank you so much for being here. And you'll flip that, and I'm going to try more. That was so good.